everyone, and welcome to the webinar on how to move into regulatory affairs. Firstly, I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone, and well done for actually taking the initiative to attend this webinar and learn how to move into regulatory affairs in the beginning of this year. The job market in regulatory affairs has increased significantly throughout 2025, and we are expecting there to be an increase also in 2026. So now is the perfect time to look at transitioning into regulatory affairs. I've got a special gift for you at the end of the webinar, so make sure you stay till the end so you can take advantage of this. So if you have any questions during this presentation, you feel free to ask it within the chat. However, if you want to ask any personal question more relating to your situation, or if you want to ask about any discounts for the course, then this email here is the one that you can use, which is contact@entrytoregulatory.com. So in today's webinar, we've got several topics that we will cover. And this webinar is basically going to give you a really good overview of what regulatory affairs is, how to actually move into regulatory affairs, so what knowledge, skills, and experience you need. We'll also go through actual examples of people who have already moved into regulatory affairs and how they made that transition. And then we will look at how you can make the transition. What can you do to move into regulatory affairs? And we will I've got an action plan for whichever situation you're in, whether you are undergraduate, whether you're a graduate, whether you've got pharmaceutical industry experience, whichever case you're in, I've created an action plan in terms of next steps and how you can move into regulatory affairs. Okay, so just to begin the presentation, I thought it'd be good to introduce myself so you all have an idea of who I am and also why am I here today. So my name is Rabia. I'm the CEO of Advanced Regulatory Consulting. We provide regulatory affairs consulting services to the pharmaceutical industry. I'm also an associate honorary professor at UCL, so I lecture students on regulatory topics there. And also I'm the CEO of Entry to Regulatory, who provide regulatory affairs training for individuals like yourself and those already working in regulatory affairs. And finally, I'm a former MHRA agency reviewer. So I've actually worked for the UK Health Authority. I've also worked for the EMA to assess marketing authorization applications and variations in these regions. But before all of this, how did I start my career? So I started my career by doing a degree in pharmacy in UCL. So this is where I was. And in those days, regulatory affairs was not as well known as it is nowadays. So I just wasn't sure where to go after finishing my degree. And I just progressed naturally into community pharmacy, as that was the expectation for pharmacists at that time, to move into community pharmacy. While working in community pharmacy, I enjoyed interacting with patients and learnt a lot from the therapeutic side of things. However, I did not feel fully fulfilled. So I felt like there was a lot of areas within my master's degree which I did not get to practice in community pharmacy. And I also felt that I wasn't being developed or mentally stimulated enough. And the career path in community pharmacy wasn't great at that time. There was no clear career progression. And for these reasons, I decided to pursue a different career. So I started researching different careers and I found regulatory affairs. And once I found out about regulatory affairs around here, then I started applying for many regulatory affairs jobs. So I applied for over 80 regulatory affairs jobs, and eventually I was able to move into the MHRA. And within the MHRA, I worked as a pharmaceutical assessor responsible for assessing Module 3 of a marketing authorization applications and variations for products to be registered in UK and Europe. I then progressed and moved into large pharmaceutical companies such as MSD and GSK, Bayer and Biogen. And then finally, I set up my own regulatory affairs consultancy and training agency, which I'm currently operating, and I provide advice now to the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. So that was my career path to move into regulatory affairs. But before I share the significant point in terms of how did I move from community pharmacy into regulatory affairs, I just want to mention that you can follow me on LinkedIn for regulatory affairs insights. So I post weekly on LinkedIn how to author regulatory submissions and various different things, which is free knowledge for you to take advantage of by simply just following me on LinkedIn. Lorraine, if you can add the LinkedIn link on the chat so that they can view the profile. Right, so the most significant part of my career transition is moving from pharmacy to regulatory affairs. And as you can see here, I had no pharmaceutical industry experience and also I had no regulatory affairs experience. So the question is, how did I make this transition? In this case, I made 80 applications. They were tailored towards the regulatory jobs, and that was all I did. But the problem is that there's two problems. So firstly, could there have been an easier way? Could I have just maybe enhanced my knowledge and skills and experience and then made fewer applications to move into regulatory affairs? That's the first point. And the second point is nowadays, because regulatory affairs has become more well known, this 80 applications is more likely to be 400 applications, which you would need to make to move into regulatory affairs. So the main focus is, how is there easier way? This is what we're going to go through in this presentation, how the easier option of how to move into regulatory affairs with proven examples of individuals who have actually made the move. So I just want to pause here and give you the opportunity just to reflect on your background and journey in terms of where are you now and where do you want to go? Because this is exactly what I did before I transitioned into the MHRA in a regulatory environment. I thought about where I am and where do I want to go? It doesn't matter what your background is, you can make that transition into regulatory affairs. Whether you are undergraduate, a science graduate, in a graduate role, or healthcare industry, pharmaceutical industry, any of these industries, or whether you're already working in regulatory affairs and you want to progress higher up in your career. Either way, there's always an opportunity to progress in your career, and I will show you how you can move into regulatory affairs or how you can get a better position in regulatory affairs. So this is where you are right now, and this is the regulatory affairs role that you want to move into. But the question is, how do you actually get there? So how do you go from where you are now into a regulatory affairs role? So before I can answer this question, the first thing we need to understand is, what is regulatory affairs? Because if you want to move into regulatory affairs, the first thing you need to understand is, what is regulatory affairs? So regulatory affairs is a profession responsible for the licensing and compliance of medicines to government regulatory standards through submissions to agencies that demonstrate the quality, safety, and efficacy of a medicine. So there's a lot of terminology being used here, but what does this actually mean? What this means is, for a medicine to reach the market and be available for patients to use them, these medicines have to demonstrate their quality, safety, and efficacy. So it needs to be demonstrated that the medicine is of a suitable quality. It needs to be demonstrated that the medicine is safe, and it needs to be demonstrated that the medicine works as well. Sorry, someone's not saying that they can't see the screen, so if you could just do thumbs up if you can see the screen. Okay. So for those of you who cannot see the screen, just try to leave the meeting and rejoin, or try to use a different device. So if you're on mobile phone, use your desktop, or if you're on desktop, use your mobile phone. Okay, so you need to demonstrate the quality, safety, and efficacy of the medicine. So is the medicine a suitable quality? Is it safe for the patients? And does it work? Now, how does a pharmaceutical company do that? They do this through the data that they provide to the health authority. This data they're building over many years while they're doing the clinical studies and even before the clinical studies. And what they have to do is marry the data that they've presented about their medicine with the regulatory requirements. So the way they generate this data has to be in compliance with what the health authority are looking for. And this needs to start from before this medicine enters the patient. This needs to start when we're in preclinical study phase. We need to start understanding what are the regulatory requirements. So as regulatory affairs professionals, what we do is we keep up to date with the legislation and guidelines, and we ensure that the products that we're working on comply with these guidelines for the relevant submission that we are doing. Okay. We then also support the preparation of these submissions and the regulatory strategies and projects. So if you want a specific example, then do let me know at the end of this meeting and I can give you some more examples, but I will go through one example in the next slide. Okay, so now we know what regulatory affairs is. Why would you want to move into regulatory affairs? How does it benefit you to make that transition? So as I mentioned, regulatory affairs is very interesting. We're linking the science with the regulatory requirements. So this is very challenging because you will use your technical scientific expertise, which you all have, and you will apply this to the guidelines, and then you will try to critique the data or try and generate data to demonstrate that your medicine has good quality, safety, and efficacy. The other benefit of moving to regulatory affairs is that you actually make a big difference. So I did promise you a real example. So one example of making a difference is one of the antibiotics that I worked on, which was used for multi-drug resistant infections. So what this means is patients, they are in the hospital, they have an infection and the doctors cannot treat this infection with the current antibiotics that they have. Therefore, they need a specialist therapy. So this is like really severe patients who are not responding to treatment. So for this particular product, what happened is the manufacturers, they made changes to the quality of their medicine and they did not tell the health authority. Now, this is a breach of the license that they've registered, and I was responsible for reviewing the changes and also ensuring the continuity of supply of this medicine. So what I did was, long story short, I interacted with the health authority. I justified why the medicine should stay on the market, why the changes made to the medicine don't have a detrimental effect to the quality of the medicine, and so on. And this simple action meant that that medicine could stay on the market and the patients could still take the medicine. So I prevented the supply disruption of that medicine and the withdrawal of the medicine from the market. So it's very significant. And there was also additional cost saving to the company of more than $1 million. So you can make a really big difference in this job and you can affect people and patients across the globe. There's also job stability. So, as I mentioned, as regulatory affairs professionals, we are responsible for marrying the regulatory affairs guidelines and requirements with the scientific data and information for the medicine that we want to register. Now, because two of these factors are always changing, this means our job stays in demand. So I'll give you an example. When I started in regulatory affairs, I was working on small molecule products, and I was working on all the small molecule regulations and so on. That time there was very few biological guidelines and there was few biological products. But over the more than 10 years now that I've worked in regulatory affairs, they've got significantly more biological guidelines and there's significantly more biological products. So I started working on biological products, then I started working on gene therapy products, and now the gene therapy product guidelines are being developed also. So as you can see, my expertise and skills developed over time, and also the regulatory requirements and the technological advances developed over time as well. And this means that they need people who can take abreast these changes and apply them to their regulatory submissions. You can also work flexibly. So initially, you can work hybrid work or full-time in office, depending on where you are in your career. And if you got the hybrid option, then that's 2 to 3 days a week working from home. And if you got the full time, then you will be in the office. So it depends on the company that you apply for, but there is the option to work from home. Some roles are actually home based, so working for consultancies can actually be home based as well. And hours are flexible, so as long as you work between the core hours, which is 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., then you can either start earlier and finish earlier or start later and finish later. So there's a lot of flexibility with working in regulatory affairs, and there's also part-time work available. One thing I would like to mention is that in the beginning of your career, you would expect to have tried to go into the office 5 days a week. But as you gain more experience and you establish yourself within your organization, then you could take advantage of the hybrid working and also the home-based roles and things. But I would say initially try to be in the office so that you can learn from others. There's also great career prospects. So you get a good starting salary. We're going to go through that in the next slide. There's all other benefits such as bonuses, shares, car allowance, health and dental insurance, retail discounts, and so on. So there's a lot of benefits because the companies, they want to retain their staff, they want to keep this expertise within their organization, and therefore they will reward you for this. So talking about benefits of working regulatory affairs, we'll talk about one of the forbidden topics, which is salaries. So not many people talk about salaries. However, on this slide, you can see this is a survey done in 2025 of people's surveys, people who worked in regulatory affairs. And you can see all of their salaries here. So in the UK, you can get a starting salary of up to £50,000. And in the US, you can get a starting salary of up to $100,000. In Europe, you can get a starting salary of 60,000 euros. And in Switzerland, you can get a starting salary of 100,000 Swiss franc. So as you can see, the starting salary, regardless of which region you're in, is above average for that particular region. So that's the first benefit. Secondly, as you can see, as you progress within your career and gain more knowledge and more expertise of regulatory affairs, your salary will show that. So your salary will increase. And you can see roughly there is a 3 times increase in your salary. As you can see, if you compare the associate to executive level, it's 3 times. Again, here's around about 3 times. So you can see there's a significant increase in your salary as you gain more experience in regulatory affairs. So this is good for somebody who wants to stay in one career and develop their career, because here you can see there is a very clear career path. Also, as I mentioned, there's bonuses. You can get bonuses, shares, there's potential to travel internationally. So I've traveled to various countries working in regulatory affairs, and it will keep. There's great career progression, generous benefits, and you get the flexible hours and ability to work from home several days a week or fully, depending on which company you apply for. So it looks like it's a role here which is very beneficial, and there's a bit of the financial benefits, and then there's lifestyle benefits. So there's quite a lot of good things that we can see here. Right. So now we have a very clear understanding of what regulatory affairs is. So the first step we have done this. But now it's the time we understand what regulatory affairs is, but how do we get into regulatory affairs? So this is the point we're going to focus on now for the rest of this presentation. How do we actually move into regulatory affairs? So what I'm presenting here on the screen is a typical entry-level regulatory affairs job description. And these job descriptions can vary slightly based on the company requirements, but the key aspect to consider here is the requirement for skills, knowledge, and experience in regulatory affairs. So after dissecting, hundreds of these entry-level regulatory job descriptions, these three elements are what I noticed: the skills, knowledge, and experience. Right, so let's have a look at each of these items. So the first requirement, it says, is a bachelor's degree in a life science topic or healthcare topic such as pharmacy, for example. That is required. So you have to have a life science degree or healthcare related degree, so science degree. Second point about having a master's or doctorate, this, it says, is considered an asset. So what that means is you don't have to have a master's to work in regulatory affairs, but if you do, you will stand out. Okay? We have had individuals who haven't had masters who moved into regulatory affairs. You can also move into regulatory affairs with a veterinary degree as well. And actually, you can even move into veterinary regulatory affairs, which focuses on animal medicines. There's a minimum, it says here, minimum 1 to 3 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry. So what that means, they want to see you having experience which translates into what regulatory affairs professionals do. Now I'm going to go through this a bit more shortly to help you understand what this means. And actually, do you actually have to have 3 years experience or 1 year, or how do you bridge this gap? Then it says you need experience of or knowledge in the preparation, filing, and approval of various submission types with health authorities. Now, this is where a lot of people will get stuck, because this is an entry-level regulatory role, but they are asking now for experience to prepare, file, and approve these regulatory submissions. So this is the thing where most people get stuck in terms of this knowledge. But actually, I provide you with this knowledge so that you can fulfill this requirement. So I actually give you the knowledge of clinical trials submissions, marketing authorization applications, and also variations. Here you can see they ask again for further experience, but this is beneficial. So this means you don't have to have it, but if you have it, you will certainly stand out. And what they're asking for here is biologics, small molecule, medical device, quality changes, clinical trial applications. Now, the training that I provide in the Introduction to Regulatory Affairs course, you will actually get experience with real regulatory submissions, which covers small molecules, quality-related changes, and clinical trial applications. So you will actually meet this criteria here and this criteria. And you will also meet this criteria here about the experience, because you will get 2 months of part-time experience, which will include the different regulatory submissions. So somebody asked me a few days ago, it says here 1 to 3 years, but you're only giving 2 months. Is that sufficient? The answer is yes, it is. And the reason is because within those 2 months, the depth of knowledge and experience that you get in terms of working on INDs, marketing authorization applications, variations, and regulatory strategy, and so on, that a person with 1 to 3 years experience, they may not have that experience. They may have been doing administrative tasks for 1 to 3 years, whereas you actually have worked on the real regulatory submission. So you can actually overcome this with that 2 month experience. And so this will also be covered. They also require basic knowledge and understanding of the regulatory legislations and regulations. So again, we also cover this in the course. We cover the European, United States, and the UK regulations and procedures, from clinical trials to marketing authorization applications and variations. And finally, you gain the experience in electronic regulatory submissions as well. So even though you might look at this job description and think, actually, I don't have this experience, I don't have this knowledge, the main point I'm trying to say here is you can actually bridge that gap through taking the initiative, doing training and work experience, and doing a course, which is the one that we provide. But there is some things which you already have. That's the good news. So it says here, computer proficient. So I'm sure you all are capable of using the computer, as you've all managed to log in successfully to this webinar. And it also says team working, which you can then take from previous work that you've done, a work experience, and you can actually say, yes, you have got this experience. And then finally, they say to comply with the company core competencies. So what this means is every company, they have their own working culture, and they want you to align with that culture. So some of the companies will say they want someone who's agile, someone who can adapt to changes. So you need to think about your past experience and how you've demonstrated that you adapt to changes. So the last two items on the computer work, you can easily bridge that with your current experience. But it's the knowledge that they require, the regulatory knowledge and the regulatory experience, so where you need to take that initiative to find out how can you bridge this gap. So I'm just going to quickly pause there and just have a quick look at some questions in the chat. I'll have the next slide ready so you can read that while I look at these queries. Okay. How about a bachelor's degree in chemistry? Yes, bachelor's degree in chemistry is extremely relevant for regulatory affairs. And we've actually had people who, well, a lot of people, one of the jobs I worked for was in MSD, and I think the team, well, I can't say how big the team is, but the team was quite big, and a majority of them actually had chemistry degrees. I stood out because I had a pharmacy degree. So yes, chemistry degree is extremely relevant for regulatory affairs. Biomedical engineer is definitely relevant with the new biological products, so that's a good degree to have as well. Postdoc in plant sciences. So this is not life sciences, but you've mentioned your postdoc. So what is your main degree that you did before the plant sciences postdoc? What about masters in pharmaceutical science? Definitely, yeah. Master in pharmaceutical science, you could definitely switch because it covers the pharmaceutical topics in there. So that's another common one. Someone said a background of 12th grade chemical biological analysis. And then they had a BA in translation and admin assistance. Okay, that's interesting. That one, your BA is in translation and admin assistance. I would say you could move into more of the admin side of regulatory affairs, like managing submissions, the systems, the regulatory systems and so on. That would also help. Chemistry is relevant. Okay. One thing I will say is so this meeting, we're already recording it, so the meeting's already being recorded. You don't need to record it yourself. It will be available for you. So no need to add any AI assistance to the meeting. Right, I'm just see if there's anything else. Right, pharmacy is applicable, yes. Biology is definitely applicable because everything's shifting towards biology nowadays. Chemistry is applicable. Nursing is, yes. I've actually had a colleague who was from nursing background. QC is one of the most common areas to move into regulatory affairs. Okay, and medtech food engineering. This one maybe I would say potentially do an extra study in a life science topic. Will the course include relevant and current articles? Yes, exactly. Yes. So the course, the training we give you will give you the latest regulatory requirements for Europe, United Kingdom, United States, across the full life cycle of a medicine. So that will give you such a wide variety of experience. It will make it easy for you to apply for a wide range of jobs. You can work remotely if you can just let me know a bit more about what your question is. Someone said, is there opportunity to work remotely? I just need to know a bit more about the context of your situation. Yes, you can get experience with Module 1 and electronic submissions during the course. Pharmacy degree will be considered, yes. Right, so I'll go back now to the presentation slide and we'll continue the presentation and then I'll come back to the queries. So what are the skills required for regulatory affairs? So every one of you in this call, you've got skills, okay? Your skills are unique to you, and that's what makes you stand out. So never underestimate your skills. Always take advantage of what you have because that's how you are unique and how you stand out from somebody else. These are the regulatory affairs skills or skills required for regulatory affairs, which you can utilize from your past experience. We also help you develop these skills too. And what you need to do, this is very critical now, is you need to link your experience in whatever field you're in with regulatory affairs. What you need to do is you need to look at what your experience is and then link it to regulatory affairs. So we can take one example. We choose one of these skills. We choose one of someone's background, and we're going to I'll show you how you can link that to regulatory affairs. Somebody's put some information here on the chat, so we'll take that as a good example. They said they're a chemical engineer with 1 year experience in pharmaceutical industry laboratory analysis. Now they've been working in detergent, cosmetic, personal care, and sanitary factors. Oh, so they've already working in RA. Okay, I'll give you an example then. So if you are a chemical engineer, but your experience is not in pharmaceutical regulatory affairs, it's in cosmetic and personal cares, you still have the technical expertise because what you've been doing within your role, and it's not just if you've worked regulatory affairs, you could have another scientific lab role. Maybe you're analysing specimens, maybe you're doing a project or a specific scientific project. Regardless of this, you could demonstrate your technical expertise because what you're doing is you are looking at data, you're generating the data, you're looking at it, then you're critically reviewing it and creating conclusions from it. So this shows your technical expertise because you can take a data set, you can take information, you can analyze it, and you can make conclusions and suggestions. So that gives you an example of how you can link your past experience with one of these skills. And in the end of this presentation, if you want me to show you how to link the other skills with your particular experience, we can go through that as well. So how do you get regulatory affairs knowledge? So we've covered skills, that's something we've all got and we can relate. Knowledge is a bit of a tricky one. So with knowledge, that's where you're going to have to reach out and find out the information. So there's different ways to get knowledge. For example, you could get work experience, which is it's competitive, but if you do, then that can give you knowledge. You can do research, but again, this is unstructured and you may get the incorrect information. You can do university studies to gain knowledge, which is more structured, but it requires a long-term commitment. And you can also speak to your colleagues who work in regulatory affairs and try and understand what they're doing and what documents they're working on. And finally, you can also speak to your employer as well. So you could say to your employer, I'm interested in regulatory affairs. Can I gain more exposure in regulatory documents? Because regulatory affairs, we work with a lot of departments. We gain the information for the dossier from many departments. So each department has an opportunity to actually work on that regulatory submission. But how you can gain knowledge of regulatory affairs right now is by doing our free regulatory affairs course. So it's a free course and you can gain knowledge of regulatory affairs immediately with no payment, no delays or anything. Lorraine, if you can put the link to the free course on the chat, that would be great. The other thing is if you do a course. Now, if you do a regulatory affairs course, this will give you very structured knowledge from an expert in regulatory affairs. So you have to be very careful when you're choosing courses because one thing you have to consider is what are they teaching you? Who is the teacher? And how much knowledge are they giving you? How many hours of knowledge are they giving you? So these are three points to consider when looking for regulatory affairs courses. And within our course, we provide you 40 plus hours of regulatory knowledge. And this will cover European, United States and UK regulations, as well as giving you 2 months of work experience, which you can then add onto your CV that you've actually done regulatory submissions. And I lead the course, so you know my background as well, in terms of working for the Health Authority and being an associate honorary professor at UCL as well. Right, so now we got a little blueprint. So we got the skills, we're linking our skills from our CV to regulatory affairs jobs. We can get the knowledge through courses or other means. And the final item is the experience. So how do we get that regulatory affairs experience? So this is a sticking point for a lot of individuals in terms of how to get the regulatory affairs experience. But before we consider the options in terms of what you can do right now to get regulatory affairs experience, I just want to highlight the importance of regulatory experience and whether it's actually needed. So what you can see here on this presentation is you can see that here I opened a role, entry-level regulatory affairs role, and there was 400 applicants in 4 days. So there was a lot of applicants. And then what I did was I categorized each of these applicants into different areas. So 40 of them had regulatory affairs experience, 23 did a course, 116 had pharmaceutical industry experience, and 221 had no regulatory affairs experience. So there's two things I'd like you to consider here. The first thing is, where do you fit in this pyramid? And the second thing is, if you was a recruiter and you was responsible for hiring an entry-level regulatory affairs candidate, which group of individuals would you choose for interview? So I'll give you an opportunity now to write down in the chat which group of individuals do you think recruiters would invite for interview? Any ideas? Okay, one person said with experience, mostly experience. We have course here as well, mostly top level. Yeah, exactly. So recruiters, they're going to focus on individuals who are most fit the most for the job. So even though the role maybe it didn't say it said you don't need regulatory affairs experience, but if you have somebody, so you imagine there's a few applicants standing in front of you, and one person's there and they've got regulatory affairs experience and they've done the job before, which you're offering. So they've already got all the skills and knowledge and everything, and they've done it in the past as well. And you have another candidate who's worked in a completely different area and they haven't got any understanding, knowledge of regulatory affairs. It's very clear that the hiring manager would go for the one with the experience. And the reason is that they already have the foundational knowledge, so it's easier to build upon this knowledge for company-specific requirements. Whereas with the other candidate who had no experience and knowledge, you have to start from scratch. You have to tell them what is regulatory affairs. You have to teach them all the topics, and it's more work and more investment in that individual. So you are right that the recruiters will focus on those with experience, um, as they will be an easier fit for the organization. So at the moment, so where you are in the pyramid, have a think about where you fit. And if you fit in the pyramid in the last two items, then the chance of you being successful for your regulatory affairs job application is actually 0.25%. What this means is you have to do 400 job applications to get into regulatory affairs. So that's the statistics, because the top people there will be the ones selected. So that's your chance of success. Whereas if you gain that regulatory affairs experience, you will only need to do 10 job applications. Okay, so you got a 10% success rate of getting into regulatory affairs if you gain that regulatory affairs experience. So if you are sitting in the bottom part of the pyramid, what you really need to consider is not to keep applying for jobs to become, 400 jobs, but think about how can you change your position so that you are more favorable for the recruiter. What can you do to become one of the top level candidates applying for the role? Yeah. And I've actually spoken to individuals who've applied for 400 jobs, and they've applied for these jobs and they ask me, what can I do? Why is it so hard? And I say to them, where do you fit in this pyramid? And they'll say, they fit in one of these last two ones. And I'll say, well, you need to put yourself at the top of this pyramid. And actually, I've actually helped people transition from being here at the bottom all the way to the top. And they've actually moved into regulatory affairs after they made this move in this pyramid. So this is a very important transition that you need to make. So how do you actually get the regulatory affairs work experience? So what can you do right now to get that experience? There's different options available. So we'll go through each of these options and we'll go through the pros and also we'll go through the cons. The first, most obvious option is to gain a regulatory affairs internship or entry-level role, and that will give you direct experience in regulatory affairs. However, these roles are extremely competitive, and like you've seen in the previous slide, there's 400 applicants required per role. We then have other pharmaceutical roles. So you can, like we saw in the job description, they prefer individuals with pharmaceutical industry experience. So getting that experience in quality or different area is always beneficial. But the thing is, this does not guarantee that you can move into regulatory affairs. So I've worked with individuals who have worked 10 years, for example, in quality, but still they can't move into regulatory affairs. So they have the gap of regulatory affairs experience. Yeah. So that's this one. You also have the option to do networking. So you could build some really good industry connections and working relationships with people. But again, that does not guarantee that they're going to offer you a job. Finally, you can do normal courses and certifications. They'll give you regulatory knowledge and a certification, but both of them, they do not provide you with a work experience. So when you do a normal course, what they will do is teach you very valuable information. And after the course, that's the end. You don't have any support to find the job. You don't have any work experience in regulatory affairs, and then you're left in the same position where you started. However, with this training that I've designed for individuals just like yourself, it provides you with everything you need to move into regulatory affairs. So you'll get 2 months of regulatory affairs work experience. You get 40 plus hours of knowledge, which will give you a certificate as well. So you'll get a certificate for the course, you get a work reference, you get the work experience on your CV, um, and you'll get job search mentoring and support until you get a job. So you will be supported from your position right now, which is where you don't have the knowledge and experience of regulatory affairs and you're struggling to make the move, all the way up until you get that regulatory job. So that's the support that you will get. All you need is a science degree, or if you are undergraduate and you're studying towards a science degree, that is fine as well. So it's 2 months, it's part-time, it's remote, so you do it from home. And there is a fee for the training. Okay, so this one you need to pay a fee. So that's the options available to get experience. Now have a think in terms of which of these options can you do right now. So which of these options can you do and actually get that experience in regulatory affairs and get a definite opportunity to gain experience in regulatory affairs. As I mentioned, as you could see, all of these options, there's some possibility, but it's only this one where you can actually say, right, on January 25th, I'm going to get 2 months of regulatory affairs work experience, because that's the next cohort. Our next cohort is on the 25th of January. So you can actually say, I'll enroll onto this and I'll get 2 months of work experience in January. And that's a definite step that you can take to gain that experience in regulatory affairs and to gain the knowledge in regulatory affairs and move up that pyramid to increase your chances of making that move into regulatory affairs. Yes, there's a lot of students who moved into regulatory affairs after doing the course, and we're going to go through those examples in a couple of slides' time, so don't miss that because we've got a wide variety of students from different backgrounds. There is a course fee for the course. Lorraine, if you could put the normal page for the course or link onto the chat, that would be really helpful. Norway is applicable to the course because Norway is part of Europe, so we do cover Europe within this course. Yes, so if you get the 2 months experience in the course, you will add that into your CV as work experience 2 months, and you will put that on the top of the CV. It'll be considered as an internship, and you will add all of those regulatory submissions that you've worked on there. And basically, we will then support you until you get the job. There's no time limit in terms of the support. Your support is all the way up until you get a job. So we give you, I will go through what support you actually get as well. Yeah. Okay, so this is you, and we want to take you from here all the way to the top. So like I said, we give you the knowledge, 40 plus hours of knowledge, 2 months of work experience. You will get skills as well. As you do the work experience, you will gain more skills. You'll get an in-depth CV review where we will link your skills and experience and knowledge to regulatory affairs. And then you'll get job search mentoring and interview practice, all of the resources to help you move into regulatory affairs. And then once you've finished the course, there is also opportunity for additional training and additional work experience as well. These are being developed, but these will be available this year. Um, Somebody's asked, what are the additional training after you land your job? So once you move into regulatory affairs, you need to do the same process we discussed in the beginning of this presentation. You need to say, where am I now and where do I want to go? Then once you know where you want to go, you need to think, how am I going to get there? What are my knowledge gaps to get there? I actually sent an email to the email list on this exact topic. So if you want, then I can actually send that again to you, to all of you in this call, in terms of how to plan your career in 2026. So we also, within this course, we cover European, UK, United States regulations, You get 2 months of work experience, 40 hours of learning. And the best thing about this course is you can actually do it while you're working or while you're studying because it's part-time. So we only expect 6 hours per week from you of your time. So this can be 1 hour every weekday. So you can be learning this while continuing what you do, and you don't have to stop anything that you're currently doing. You can continue what you're doing and do the course at the same time. So you get the expert CV review. So I'll give you an example of the CV review is that I reviewed people from the previous cohort, for example, November. They're all getting interviews now after the CV review and doing the course. So that shows you how effective it is. You also get a course book, which I'll show you in one of the other slides, a certificate, mock interview. You also get the reference as well, get a work reference, and access to this careers hub, which is really underrated because I don't talk about it much, but it's extremely valuable. It's got all of the learning videos and resources, so you can find all of the jobs that you're looking for and know exactly how you can apply for jobs and how to stand out. So it literally takes you step by step in making yourself successful when applying for jobs. There's also opportunity for more work experience after the course. So this is something we are developing. And you'll also get bi-weekly live calls. So this course is all done online and the lectures are recorded, so you can just watch them in your own time. But then if you want that direct interaction with me, we also have these live calls every 2 weeks. So that's where you can ask me any question about regulatory affairs and get any support that you need. Right, so this one is one of the very, very interesting slides. So in this slide, you can see people from different areas, different professions, different degrees, and they all made the move into regulatory affairs. These are real people who have done the course and the training, and after doing the training and the course, they've moved into regulatory affairs. So one thing I would like to say is a lot of people, they are not sure whether they can make the transition. So I'm hoping that this slide can really bust that myth. As you can see, we've got individuals who are biomedical science degrees, so they don't have a master's, they just have a science degree. We've got graduates in pharmaceutical science who've moved into regulatory affairs. We've got PhDs, we've got undergraduates, we've got those who've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, we've got pharmacists, we've got scientists, and we've got project admin as well. And they've all got a range of degrees. Some are undergraduates, some are graduates, some got PhD, some got MSc, so it's a wide range of individuals. But the problem they had was the same. This is the key element here. The wide background, but the problem was the same, that they didn't have any knowledge or experience in regulatory affairs. And this is exactly what we did. We was able to resolve these problems, and they were able to move into regulatory affairs. So they were able to move into all of these different companies, medical device, large pharma, consultancies. One moved into the MHRA and a generics company as well. So they all moved into regulatory affairs. And this one here is a recent example. I just screenshotted the message. And basically she's saying, thank you very much. She found we had a CV review session, which she found really valuable. And she's starting in regulatory affairs in January. So she's actually starting already now in regulatory affairs. And she started the course in September. So October, November, December, January. So 4 months, she was able to move into regulatory affairs. So within 4 months of starting the course. That gives you an indication of how effective this training is. Here's Liviana. She's moved into regulatory affairs, and she's getting a very good salary in Switzerland. And we've got Libby here, who's also working in regulatory affairs and a technical role as well. So it was a technical consultant. So she's doing very interesting role here, actually. It's a mix of regulatory and also innovation. And then we've got other individuals as well, which are here. So these are all of the people who've moved into regulatory affairs. We have got discounts available for the course. The discounts are listed on this price page. So if you scroll down this page, there is discounts. So discounts are available for those who are unemployed, those who work for any health authority or government institution. We've got NHS discount, we've got student discount, we've got discount for those who are from developing countries as well, including South Africa. So we've got all of these discounts available. So if you are eligible for any of these, or you want to check your eligibility, you can simply just email contact@entry2regulatory.com, and then what we will do is review your situation and give you feedback in terms of your eligibility. So this slide is the slide I promised you in the beginning of this presentation, where I said I will show you, whatever your situation is, how you can move into regulatory affairs. So that's what I said. This is exactly what is here in this table. So these are various different situations which you could be in, and what your current situation is, and your new potential situation, and how you can actually do this. So what you can see here is if you're undergraduate, then we will support you to move into a regulatory affairs student placement or pharma role. If you've got a degree or you recently graduated and your work experience is limited, then obviously we will give you that work experience, and we'll also support you into a graduate regulatory affairs position or a general pharmaceutical industry role. If you've already got experience in other areas, so you can work in pharmacy, in lab roles, academia, other industries and so on, so you've got some experience to draw from, then we would either support you for an entry-level role or for a mid-level role, depending on how many years experience you have. So that's what we can do. And then if you've got junior level regulatory affairs experience, so you're already working in regulatory affairs, I think somebody mentioned this, but your experience is not covering the areas where you want to develop further in your career. So maybe you don't have European or UK or US experience. Maybe you don't have clinical trials experience or marketing authorization application experience. We can fill in those gaps, and then we can support you to move up within your career. And even in the course, we have people with more than 3 years experience where they've got a lot of experience, but some of them been pigeonholed into specific areas. So we will fill in the gaps for you. So if you haven't got clinical trials experience, we'll give you that. If you haven't got US experience, we'll give you this. So we'll fill in the gaps in your experience so that you can move forward and progress in your career. And then these are the other benefits which we discussed. But here I just want to touch upon the experience of what you're actually getting, because a lot of people ask me, okay, what experience, what am I actually doing? So you will be working on a IMPD for clinical trials application, and or IND, which is all of the CMC information. You work on a marketing authorization application or NDA. So if you're based in the US, we can switch the European experience to US experience. So you have the option. You'll also work on variations. So these are all the different types of variations you're going to work on, or the US post-approval changes, and also regulatory strategy. You'll work on that as well. So that's the experience you'll get. You'll add that onto your CV. You'll mention that on your interview. So when they ask you, okay, what's your experience or what do you know about, variations, you can say, well, actually, I've done variations within this course. And I've worked on these variations. So you will definitely stand out with this experience. So whether you have no regulatory experience or whether you have regulatory experience, you will have a benefit. So the best case is you will do this course and training, and then you will move into regulatory affairs, or you will move into a higher position in regulatory affairs. The worst case is that if you have no regulatory experience, or if you have regulatory experience, the worst case is you'll get 40+ hours of knowledge, you'll get a certificate, you'll get 2 months of work experience on your CV, and you'll get job search support until you move into regulatory affairs. So either way, you will progress from where you are right now. Whether it's the best case where you've moved into regulatory affairs or have a better position in regulatory affairs, or you will gain the knowledge and experience which will help you move into regulatory affairs or a better position. And you'll get that ongoing job support as well. So you won't lose by enrolling onto the course. In fact, you'll gain something. And as I mentioned previously, people have moved into regulatory affairs within 1 to 9 months from starting the course. So this is an average, and it depends obviously on how much effort you put, your region and other circumstances. But that's the figure that we have received, and I showed you the example of someone who moved into regulatory affairs within 4 months of doing the course. So that fits within our statistics. The certificate will be valid in the United States, so you won't have to worry about that. So I'll just show you, we've got people from the US who do the course, and they've been advertising their certificates on LinkedIn. So this is just a very small snapshot of what you can see, what you're getting in the course, all of these lectures. You get a course book which you can keep. So you get this book will be posted to you wherever you are. We will post this to you so you can keep that for your future reference. And then all of the job support benefits are all here. You get a certificate. This is just an example, it's not the one. So you get all of the support, mentoring, and so on as well. And I keep adding things onto the course. You know that I'm always adding, and I get told off for this because I added more things to the careers hub, more careers resources. I added all the live sessions, and I also added an extra month of work experience as well. So we're constantly improving this course and making it better and better, because we want to help you make the move. So whatever we could do to make changes and make this course better to help you achieve your objective is what we're going to do. And this slide here just indicates what you will learn when you're in the course. So by the end of the course, you'll be very familiar with all of these terms, and I would expect that you'll be able to explain them in detail, such as type 1B variation, medical device, user testing. Each of these items you will learn in a good amount of detail, so you will be very familiar with these terms. And why choose us rather than any other course? As you can see, you're getting a lot more value for what you are paying for the course. With other courses, like I said, you're just getting a lecture, an expert teacher, and maybe a few case studies. With us, you're getting a professional reference in addition to your certificate. You're getting 2 months of work experience, the mentoring, the resources, 40 plus hours of learning, because please, when you look at courses, look how many hours they're giving you, because sometimes they might only give you 19 hours or 5 hours. So you need to consider this. How many hours are you actually learning? What are the topics as well? We also give you all the CV review, mock interview, and all the live support as well. So all of this far outweighs any other similar course. Okay, so this is the student feedback that we got. So there's a lot more feedback. I just need to add it on. I know this is on my to-do list. But yeah, the course is rated 4.6 stars out of 5 stars. So people are happy with the course. We got a good rating. And where there's any discrepancy, I told you we updated the course for those areas. As you can see, everyone's happy with the course. They give good feedback. They say it's well structured, the lectures are engaging, and the work experience is very useful for them as well. You can also see they rate the course very highly. The knowledge increases in the course. They have more confidence in applying for jobs, and they're happy with the CV review and the content. This all is available on the website, except for this part, just this one. So you can have a look at that as well. And this is an example of the course calendar, so you can see exactly what is included. So what you can see here is we have 4 modules. Each module is 2 weeks, and each week you spend 6 hours. So that's the main point. And you're doing the lectures, case study, work assignment each week. And then one of the weeks you're going to update your CV. And then more towards the end, we're going to focus on applying for jobs and giving you all the job search support and mentoring. So that's the end of my presentation. I've also got this free course available for you here. And now I will, so you can access this free course. So Lorraine put the free course link in there. So the free course is a sample of the main course, and I'm going to tell you that it's less than 1% of the content of the full course. So it's a very small sample, but it will give you exactly an understanding of what to expect. To be honest, the full course gives you more than the sample because of all the career support and everything you're getting, but it'll give you an idea nevertheless. So this is my gift to you. I'm giving you £100 off voucher. Because you've attended this webinar, this is £100 off the full course. So we've got the next cohort on the 25th of January. We've got a few spaces left, so we want to fill in these spaces. So you get £100 off the price of the course, but you just have to make sure you book by Sunday, so Sunday this week. So when you book by Sunday this week, then you can use these vouchers. And if you, like I said, if you've got any questions and further queries, you can ask them now. Alternatively, if there are more personal questions or if you're asking about your discounts, then you can also contact me at contact@entrytoregulatory.com. The free course, it won't provide a certificate, but it will give you an idea exactly of what the course is like. There is another small course which is a £50 course, and again that's a sample, so a slightly bigger sample than the other one, but again it's only like about 1 or 2% of the course. It's very small amount of the course. But if you want to see a sample, I would say go for those. This is the webinar discount coupon, so I'll just get that one ready for you so that you can put that, you can apply that. Let me just, oops. Right, so I'll just have that ready there, and oh, the link can't change. Okay, so now is your perfect opportunity to ask anything regulatory. So you can ask about the job, you can ask about careers. This is your moment now to take advantage of live support regarding regulatory affairs or careers. Do you also provide training on BLA submissions in the US? Yes, so the BLA will be covered within this course. We will include BLA. And BLA, so what is a BLA? BLA is a biologics license application which is submitted in the United States. And this application is going to have the same structure as a NDA, in the sense you're going to have the module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the content is going to be different. There'll be some slightly different documents included in there. So with the BLAs, because they are biological products, there's other information that needs to be included, such as the cell banking system and so on. So that will be included in terms of under the topic that we cover, which is called, bear with me, I'll just go up down here. We cover a topic on the new drug applications, and this one here, US, we got new drug applications, that will include biologic license applications in there as well. So you'll get that covered within the course. So I'm just putting in your voucher because I don't want you to miss out on that, because you've stayed right till the end. Do you have, so the placement will be under Advanced Regulatory Consulting, which is my consultancy company. I am based in the UK, but you can be based anywhere in the world and you will get the same experience. So you see this review here, they are based in South Africa, and they got the experience. And Liviana here is based in Switzerland. So both of them were able to add this experience onto their CV. Yes, I will share the recording if you came in late. So the job training will be based on real work. So what we do is we redact the information, so we don't give you confidential information, but the content is the same. So I'll give you an example. Instead of saying the chemical name of how so and so was produced, we will put another name to protect the company and their IP. But the actual process and what you're going to do is identical to regulatory affairs. So you're going to, I'll give you an example for variations assignment. Basically, you'll be given a list of changes that was made. And what you're going to do is you're going to classify all of these changes and what are the variation codes, types, and so on, and do the authoring as well for that. So you're going to, this is all real work that you will do. And this is the reason why you can put that onto your CV. Um, Someone said you got PhD in biophysics focused on protein research. That is definitely valuable. So anyone with biologics degrees is extremely valuable. Small molecule chemistry degrees are still valuable because most of the medicines on the market are going to be tablets. But the biologics medicines, they are emerging, and especially gene therapy. So if you've got a biological degree, then that's a good area to move into. So someone asked, after the 25th of January, is there another cohort? There is another one, but it's a bit while away. So the next cohort after January will be in April. So if you want to use the discount, then the deadline to enroll on the course will be 11th of January. But if you lose the discount, then you can have up to 19th of January. So to take advantage of £100 off, basically book it by Sunday. After that, you won't have the opportunity to use that discount. Someone said, I've got 21 years of lab experience in analytical science. Can I move into regulatory? Yes, you definitely can. I think one of the examples I showed was a few scientists who had a lot of lab experience. Where are they? Yeah, so we've had these senior scientists, development scientists. This one here is I'll just highlight that's a more recent one. They moved into the MHRA and they were very heavily focused on drug discovery. So they weren't doing the analysis of samples, but it's more about discovering the entities. But I was able to help them move into MHRA. So that was a good win. Graduate in biomedical engineering and medical devices. So even though our course says pharma, you can see here we've actually got people who moved into medical devices. So because medical devices, they do consider people from pharma regulatory affairs. The course is done through recording, so the lectures are all going to be recorded. So I'll show you here. So the lectures are recorded. You spend 6 hours a week. So as long as you meet the deadline and you do the work assignment, you watch the lectures within that week, it doesn't matter what time you do it in the day. You could do it in the morning, the evening, whenever you are available. Um, the only thing live, oh yeah, this slide, yeah. So if you see this slide here, actually, sorry. I want to show you this slide, yeah, because I didn't present it. So what you can see here is a typical week or 2 weeks in the course. And in this example, somebody decided they wanted to do 1.5 hours per day, Monday to Thursday. So that's where you're studying. Then Friday, you're having a break. Maybe you might update your CV or apply for jobs as well. And then week 2 is the same, 1.5 hours a day, Monday to Thursday. And then you got the live course happen on Saturday. So that's one example. But you might do it different. You might say, okay, you know what? I don't want to do any work on Monday to Thursday. I just want to work on the weekend. Then you can do that as well. So it's all about you. As long as you fit those 6 hours in, that's fine. And these live calls are every Saturday, Saturday evening, UK time. This course is more focused on pharma rather than cosmetics. So just to let you know that. Uh, Job market in relation to the older candidates. So the older candidates, most of them was able to move into regulatory affairs. Where are they? Some of them they wanted to stay in their job, or everyone has their own situation. So I respect what your situation is. Liviana was a very old candidate. She's become very successful, actually. So she's did quite well actually. And then we have another candidate here who's old. I think it's I think it was this one here. She used to apply for so many jobs before she did this course. She was applying for loads, but then once she did the course, she started getting all the interviews started flooding in. And I remember because I was saying I was supporting her with the interviews, and she kept telling me I've got another one, another one. Yeah, but that was quite funny actually. She moved into medical devices. Will you also cover submission dossiers and how they have? Yeah, that's what you're going to work on. Yes, you're actually going to work on the dossiers. You're going to work on authoring the dossier. You're going to work on the application form, and you're going to work on how to get that information in there through all of the different assignments. What would be the starting salary for US? So US, I didn't have it per region. I've just got a US salaries. So your starting salary is 100,000 US dollars. Okay, so the jobs they can be remote or they can be on site, but I would say as a new starter, I would say be flexible to go into the office because that's how you learn. I learned so much when I was working in the MHRA in the office from experts in the field. You get the CV and job support from day one, yes. So even though you can see in my timeline, I put the CV job support at the end. Where is it? Oh God. Yeah, so I put it at the end. But if you, for example, was applying for jobs here and you got an interview, then I'm definitely going to help you with your interview because at the end of the day, my aim is to help you move into regulatory affairs. So if you've done it here, you've applied for a job or you've got an interview, then yes, I will help you. The course is not self-paced, no. As you can see, we've got strict timelines, but it's like a hybrid because in one sense you can watch, you can do the training any time during the day or any day of the week, but the other side is you have to complete it by 1 week. So it's a hybrid, I would say. We don't cover the RIM tools like Viva Vault, we don't cover those, but what we do cover is the principles behind them. So when you've got a tool like Viva Vault, it's to do your publishing and track your regulatory submissions. There's so many things in that tool. Um, but you need to understand the structure of the CTD to understand this tool. You need to understand the information and data that is going within this tool. This is extremely important, and we include that topic in a lot of detail in terms of the CTD structure. So that is the foundations for using any tool. Starting salary in the UK is up to 50,000. So you could say around about say 30 to 50,000. It depends on which company you apply for. Okay. Are you using AI for filings? Yeah, I was waiting for the AI question because we should get one AI question each time I do this. So I'm not using AI in any of my filings. I'll tell you off the record that I'm not using it. The reason is because there's several reasons. This work that we're doing is extremely specialized, and when you use AI, it's very generic. You can try to use AI, but what AI will give you is generic answers, and they can do very basic things, but they can't make the submission. You need a human to do it, to be honest with you. You can use the AI for researching, or what's the regulations in this country. But again, even if you ask them that, they will give you have to be extremely careful with the information you get. Once I was researching regulations, and I asked AI, okay, you know, does this or what's regulation talks about so and so topic? They gave me the regulation. I then looked at the reference source and I saw that that regulation did not mention what they said it did. So I questioned it and I said, that information is not there. And then they said, oops, sorry, that was a mistake. So what I'm trying to say here is be careful with AI because people who have experience in a specific field, they can tell. when AI is correct and when it's incorrect. But when you're new, you're going to just assume everything's right, which can get very dangerous. So that's why I say um, always look at the health authority website, the latest information. There is job security, yes. People are saying AI can replace different things, but in this case, AI will be used as a tool. Like I said, we can use it to research regulatory requirements, but again, we still have to fact check everything with the health authority websites, and it won't be used for authoring or because people are trying to develop stuff, but the thing is, when they develop it, as soon as they developed it, the regulations will change or the technology will change or something will change and then they have to start from zero basically. So uh yeah, like I said, and the point in the beginning about job stability, this area is changing very frequently. There's so many things happening. So yeah, you need a human basically. You can use AI as a tool, but you definitely need someone who knows what they're doing. You mentioned about jobs at MHRA and their job opportunities. With the US FDA. Yes, yes, there are definitely job opportunities with the US FDA as well. US FDA jobs will be similar in the sense where you got reviewing the NDAs that are coming in, or the BLAs and so on. So you're actually reviewing the documents. You'll have admin type jobs in the FDA. You'll also have policy type jobs, which is like where they're developing the guidelines and things like this. It's a wide variety of jobs. In any health authority, you'll have these areas. Someone says, started my career late. I'm in 40-year-old and 5 years experience in IT. Do you think I can get eligible for this field? Okay, what to do for this one? Send me your CV because I'll have to look exactly. It's very specific. Especially because you said you've worked in IT, so I need to see, okay, have you got a life science degree? What industry within, what company have you worked for, and all of these areas. I'm just seeing, if I've missed your question, please post it again. Yeah, in your CV, you will include this as an internship on your CV. So you'll just include the date when you started and finished. That will be included as an internship, and you'll also include all of the submissions that you've worked on as well. Don't worry, we will share this recording for you. Okay, we've got a bit of time. I'll stay for a little bit longer. Someone said I've got MTech in food engineering technology. Will I be eligible? Um, can you send me your CV as well? So where it's obvious that you've got a life science degree and some other science experience, then I can give a straight answer. When it comes with this example and the IT example, I have to look into it a bit more and just see is there any possibility. But even if you can't work into the standard regulatory role, maybe you can work on, for example, say with the IT field experience, you can also look into the systems as well, like Viva systems and RIM systems and so on. So that's why I will evaluate that specifically for you. Okay, cost of the course. Okay, so the cost of the course, is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so here you could see, if you go onto this page, I'll copy that one more time. This one, that's the main page with information. This is the cost page. So the cost is, in one sense, is good because you can actually pay in installments. So I don't think others do the same. So yeah, we've got a close date. You could pay in 3 installments and you could pay in 5. So this is the cost, £695 per month if you're paying 3 installments, and £437 if you're paying 5. If you want to join January, then you need to do this one, the pay in 3 option. The total cost of the course is here, 1986. And this one here, core course, is if you don't want job support. So if you don't want any job support, you just want the course and work experience, you can go for this one as well. It will be listed under advanced regulatory consulting. So when you do the work experience, it will fall under advanced regulatory consulting work experience. The course will fall under entry to regulatory. Oh, this is Liviana's video as well. She's given a testimonial. There's a lot of videos, I'll be honest, I haven't published them, so I will have to put some time for that. But you can see here, Jerome from South Africa, he reviews the course. We've got Liviana there as well. And we've got these reviews here as well. We don't provide a guarantee that you can land the job. We just provide you with the support until you get the job. I don't want to give any guarantees, but we would, like I said, we will support you until you get the job. Eastern Europe. Okay, which country are you in Eastern Europe? If you can let me know what country it is. A payment, Romania. Yeah, okay, we could do a discount for Romania, yes. You just contact the email. Will it be beneficial in Gulf? Yes, definitely. And the reason is, well, I will tell you a little secret actually. I actually use some of the content from this course to train the health authority assessors in Gulf countries. And they actually learn from this content. So what you're learning here will be the same thing I show the or teach the health authorities in Gulf countries. So yeah, it's beneficial. They basically, the Gulf countries, they want to be more aligned with Europe and US. And what they do in terms of their assessment, this is very interesting. I had a discussion with them. So, working for the MHRA in Europe, we are very like focused on ourselves. So if we get a US submission, we're going to say, no, we want this all according to European and UK regulations. With the Gulf, and same with the US, they'll want everything according to the US requirements. With the Gulf countries, they are flexible. So what they will do is they will look at their regulatory requirements for the US, Europe, and then they look even at other countries as well. And what they'll do is they'll decide, okay, which one is more stringent or which one is more applicable, and then they will make a decision on which one to follow. So I thought that was very interesting, actually. So I'm just seeing if there's any other questions I haven't answered. Someone said they got regulatory experience in the Philippines. Yes, that is that. So what you got to do here is if you are moving into another country, such as Europe, UK, or US, what you need to do is you need to bridge the gap by learning the regulatory requirements for whichever country that you want to work in. And then you will use your additional experience in Philippines regulatory affairs to support that. After you land your first regulatory role, the additional training, it depends on what you're looking for. So we will be releasing further training, and it's all up to you to decide in terms of where you want to go, and what's your gaps in your knowledge. Oh, someone says, I've got an interview. Okay. Do you teach the RIM tools as well? We don't teach the actual RIM tools. Okay, we don't teach that the actual how to use the tool. But this is definitely something that we are looking into because there's a lot of interest in this area in terms of how to use the tool. I've used the tools in my jobs. In my different jobs, I've used all the different tools. Um, so if you want some information on it, then I can give you some information, but just let me know what exactly you want to know. Yeah, just someone said they're from Canada. Will they get support? Yes, you will get support. From Canada, if you're in Canada, we'll add an extra couple of hours to focus on specific Canadian requirements. Yeah, you're right. To get experience with these RIM tools, it's very hard to get this experience, and there's a few reasons why. Because you need the data within the tool. You need the company data. Having a tool without the information of the medicine is basically it's like having a shell with nothing in it. You can't get so you to get the experience with these publishing tools, you ideally have to work for company. But I am looking at creating a work experience for it. So that's something that I'm looking into, but it will be challenging. Right, this course not associated with any university. I do teach at UCL, which is very famous university in the UK. But the course itself is it's from entry to regulatory, so it's an industry recognized course rather than an academic course. Um, affiliated by any. So we don't affiliate with any organization or any university, and the reason is because firstly, we don't need to. The course is already recognized by the pharmaceutical industry, as you've seen in the examples. People have done this course and the training, and they've been recognized by their employers, and that's the most important thing for your training to be recognized by employers who are actually going to hire you. So we already fulfill this. But if we start affiliating with other organizations, there'd be a significant increase in the price of this course just because of the affiliation. So to avoid this issue, we keep it the way it is. But what I can say is the quality of the course content is extremely high standard, which I use when I'm training people in UCL. So you can just take that as what you like. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close this meeting. Oh, sorry, we've got a few questions. Um, is this your course? Okay, we talked about that. Do we have a certificate in the end? Yes, you do. You do get a certificate in the end of the course, covering the course, and you also get the work reference. So if you have any more questions, then please contact this email. or further questions. And like I said, you could find out more information about the course on this link. And within this page, you could see there's a free course here as well. So if you want to try out, you could try it out. If you want to see the price, you can see the price. If you want to have a call with me with more personalized or specific questions, you can also book a call with me. So there's all these different options on the main page. Right. Thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.